Peace and love, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Happy New Year to everybody. Um, I know it's been a while since I make a video. I am the YouTubing non-YouTuber, the YouTuber who doesn't make YouTube videos. I say that all the time, but I feel bad about it. But I have a life to live, and it mainly involves me spending a ton of time with my children and then any extra time I spend on, developing myself, reading, meditating, exercising, being in quiet and stillness and pursuing enlightenment. So I do have a lot of things that I want to talk with y'all about, but I am starting the Five Elements series here. So I think I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but I decided that I'm going to go ahead and start by doing some reading on the five elements. And I have two books that I'm going to be reading out of. My favorite book here, A Woman's Dictionary, one of my favorites. I say every book is my favorite because I really, really do love books. And some of them I refer to often, like my anatomy and physiology books, my herbal books, and then my esoteric or spiritual books. So we dealing with the five elements, right? And as we progress, I'm probably gonna have to break this up because I do want to put on the screen this document which I created, which is gonna go over the five elements, and we're gonna be, talking about the cardinal directions, some of the glyphs, some of the invisible signs, because every element has its physical uh, part, but it also has its invisible aspect as well. And we're going to talk about that. Colors, the Egyptian deities, body parts, body systems, senses. We're going to map it all out and how they relate to the five elements. And then we'll go into how we can actually use this information to increase these and balance these elements in our body. And even if you get to a real good in-depth level, you really can interact with and control the elements. And I know firsthand, normally this stuff is not for show, So sometimes when I'm out and I'm like in deep meditation, I'm in the mountains and I'm doing these practices, and I one time, out there working with the water element, it literally started raining with the sun out and everything. And I so much stuff be happening out there, I never capture it, but it's not meant to be captured. It's not a circus. It's not a circus. This stuff is not for a circus, for show off and things like that. So some of the most powerful moments that you will have when you're working with these particular studies is when you're by yourself with no eyes on you. It's just you and nature and God, and that's where the magic happens, and that's where the magic is supposed to happen. But if anybody use these things that we're going to discuss and they have any experiences, I would love to hear about y'all experiences in the comment section. Once again, Happy New Year. I haven't made a video in a very long time. I mean, months. And that's because life is life, you know. And so, without further ado, I promised an advanced, level of the five elements. Um, Me personally, I do Tai Chi. I read about the elements, but naturally, since a child, I've been like this. I've been able to tap into the elements. I've been able to do Reiki and do, different things with energy and connections with nature. Now, when I was younger, I didn't know it was called Reiki. I didn't know it was called Tai Chi. I didn't know it was called prana and chi and sekam and things like that. But as I got older, I was like, oh, I used to do this stuff when I was a child. No wonder I'm so drawn to it. I'm a truth seeker and a person who seeks enlightenment. That's who I am. So I don't really spend a lot of time out in public like I used to. I spend a lot of time in private. And so even getting on this, and doing these YouTube videos, it's still a public thing. I really don't interact with public too much because I'm too busy, in depth. Now I do run a business, and once again, I'm not gonna ask you guys for donations, even though my Cash App is always grow. You're welcome to leave one, but I'm not asking for it. I would rather you go onto my website, which is www.quintessentiallifeherbs.com, and make a purchase of some herbs. If you're dealing with anything, you can um, reach out with an email, or a chat on the website, and I handle all the chats. And so we can chat, and I can help you all with anything that you may be needing assistance with. I am a herbalist. I do this full time. I will always say and continue to say I birth my own children at home. No doctors, no doulas, no midwives. My children have never been to the hospital. Anything that they've ever dealt with, I've used herbs. I make herbs for my family, my friends, and friends of friends. All the time. I do this full time. I'm a full time herbalist. I'm not looking to be the social media guru. I'm just looking to help people. That's all I want to do. And I try to keep my workload to a minimum because I've been working in uh, the corporate world for a long time and got burnt out on it. That's when I realized that type of life wasn't for me. So even turning down and quitting my six-figure job to go ahead and say, you know what, I think life is better if I'm not as making as much as I am, but now I get to pursue the things that I want to pursue. I get to spend the time with my children that I want to spend with them, teach them the lessons that I want to teach them. And that has made me tremendously happy. So with that said, we're gonna start off with some readings. Okay, this first phase or this first video is going to primarily be just reading about the elements, um, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to be reading out of The Secret Teaching of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. I'm also going to be reading out of my Woman's Dictionary, Sacred Signs and Symbols. And I picked these because these books have a lot of knowledge in them, and they're broad in what they encompass, and they're not focused on one thing, and so you can find a lot of different references in here to the elements. So without further ado, I got me a list right here of pages that I'm going to be going to. So that's the other thing. It takes some time to get through these pages, but we're gonna start off with page 6. Try to show y'all the elements here, and we're gonna read here. Okay, elements. Signs of antiquities, 4 elements appeared in either triangular or circular form, arranged in order of their supposed density or refinement. The heaviest of the 4 was earth, which sinks to the bottom when mingled with water in a vessel. Conversely, air in water bubbles upward, while fire rises upward in air and is therefore the lightest element. So we just talked about, look, earth sinks in water, and then the air is bubbling in water going up, and the fire rises up in air. One thing you're going to see about these elements are that there is no end and beginning to these elements. In reality, there is no end or beginning. They merge into each other. And one way I kind of explain that is if you look at your hand, like there's you have a good way to kind of visualize this and think about that is if you look at your hand from this white side to the darker side, or whatever your complexion may be, from the rough part of your hand to the more smooth side of your hand, there's really no defined line. There's really no defined line where this one ends or this one begins. They kind of merge into each other. And that's kind of how these elements are. Let's continue reading. Sometimes the Greeks postulated a 5th element, even lighter and brighter than fire, existing only in the heavens. It was called ether, the star stuff of which the astral, starry bodies of heavenly beings were made. This ethereal Fifth element became the mystic quintessentia of medieval alchemy. I like that because this fifth element, ether, the quintessentia, when I made my business Quintessential Life years and years ago, I made Quintessential Life in like 2014, and I've been building on it ever since. I didn't even get I had a DBA, but I didn't even back then, but I didn't even get a LLC until like 2021. So this my business is a pyramid. My knowledge is constantly increasing, and my business has been constantly increasing. Although my by short amounts every year is actually doing better. So I'm building a pyramid. Everything you do in your life should be building a pyramid. But the fact that I named it Quintessential Life, which is the most perfect, quintessential means the most perfect form. That's how I wanted, people to feel, and that's how I felt when I was dealing with herbology. And so I wanted to share that, and that's kind of what the name of my business embodies. Continuing. So attractive was the idea of ether that some people clung to it long after science had demonstrated that there is no such substance and also had begun to discover the real elements, none of which are the classical four. So we're talking about elements like aluminum, calcium, helium, hydrogen, the periodic table of elements, which are different than the classical elements that we know. Even up to the 19th century AD, it was popularly believed that all of outer space was filled with a rarefied gas known as ether. And that could still be the case. Continuing, the basic four elements passed into European tradition via Greek literature, but the Greeks were among the last to hear of them. Okay, they had been part of human thinking all over the world for thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of years. The real origin of the elements lay somewhere in the Neolithic age, when people discovered that there are only four possible ways to dispose of their dead, other than cannibalism. So you had burial in the earth, you had cremation with fire, you had sinking in the waters, all right, or you had exposure to the carrion birds of the air. So these were ways that people got rid of their bodies. And today, the primary ways that people use here in the States, in America, and most of the world is either through burial or cremation. But there are still some societies that actually sink their dead bodies to the depths of the water. And then I mean, and then I'm sure that through acts of violence and perhaps or accidents, that if you're out, in nature and you get caught, you get lost, you happen to pass away, the birds gonna come. So all of these particular ways of disposing the human body are still happening to this day. So, all four of these funerary practices were known to the ancients, who envisioned death as a reversal of birth, a return to the mother who brought forth all life in the world. For this reason, some of the oldest images of the primordial mother goddess are closely connected with the idea of elements. The four elemental symbols are found in the four hands of India's pre-Vedic great mother Kali, who invented the sounds of the Sanskrit letters and from these created the primal mantras that brought the universe into being. These sounds were classified as La, earth, Va, water, Ya, air, and Ra, fire, uniting them all with the goddess's own spirit, Ma meaning both mother and intelligence. In the Mahanirvana Tantra, the goddess is also addressed as earth, water, air, and fire, as well as life in this world, knowledge itself, and supreme deity. She mingled the four elements to create life from flesh, which is earth, blood, which is water, breath, which is air, and fire, which is the vital heat. And with all of this, pay attention to this knowledge because we're gonna keep building, and you're gonna see as we get into this sheet that I created, that how we can tap into these elements even in our own body. This theory persisted all the way into medieval European medicine, with its insistence on mixtures of the four element to humors of the body, which is interesting because I use the four humors. I have a blood formula, a yellow bowel formula, a black bowel formula, and a phlegm formula. These are the humors of the Greeks, but I liked it those because they was something that I instantly connected with, and I named my formulas, my four detoxing formulas: my blood formula for cleansing the blood, my phlegm for cleansing the respiratory system, my yellow bowel, the digestive system, and then my black bowel for the kidneys and liver. I use all systems when I'm creating medicine. I don't. It really don't matter to me. If it's truth, it's truth, and if I can um, experiment and use something and it works, then I keep it. And I'm an eclectic. That's who I am. I learn from everywhere, and I'm reminded of, um, like they say, it's like water. You know, if you was thirsty and you wanted some water, you would drink water from any vessel. You wouldn't say, "Oh, he's Jewish. I'm not drinking that water. Oh, he's black. I'm not drinking that." It's that's what truth is. Truth is wherever you get it, wherever you can find it. If you're thirsty for the truth, then once you find it, it doesn't matter where you found it at. As long as it's truth, you drink. Continuing. Stoic philosophers had a similar notion of personified nature as the mother goddess who created life from the four elements. She was the origin of everything and the guardian of mysteries. She built the walls of the world and made the earth a globe, hanging exactly in the center, surrounded by flocks of stars. This ancient Greek idea of the global earth was supplanted in the Middle Ages by the Judeo Christian biblical idea of a flat earth. The Stoic writer Menelaus said the goddess organized heterogeneous parts, air, earth, fire, floating water, into a unity and ordered them to feed one another so that harmony would rule all things. Discordant principles in the world might endure. And the flat earth and the round earth, really, it could be both, because honestly, I from a physical and scientific point of view, I see roundness, but from an infinite point of view, I've actually got in tune with the deities, and they was like, yeah, the whole universe is flat. Not the earth, but the entire universe is so flat. And while I was in this trance, I was like, I had like a something in my hand, and it was like it was a trance. I was in a trance, and I was dealing with the deity, and they was telling me. I was asked about whether the Earth was flat, and they was like, the whole universe is flat, and I was like, had something in my hand, and I kept smashing it, and it kept getting infinitely flat, and they was like, no, it's still not flat enough, and I kept flattening it with my hand, and it keep getting flatter and flatter, and they was like, no, it's way flatter than that. And I'm like, what, flat to infinity? I mean, that's so that when you are, a spiritual person and who kind of been searching for truth, you can see that it's possible that for two things to be true. Really, in order to be enlightened, you have to be able to hold two opposing ideas in your head, which would be a contradiction to most people, but for people who walk the path, they understand it's not. Two contradicting things can both be true, and that's the path. That's the middle path. But continuing, correspondences proliferated as more and more thoughts centered on the elemental theory throughout the centuries. Medieval thinkers, for example, believed in four sets of elemental spirits: the gnomes for earth, the undines for water, the salamanders for fire, and the sylphs for air. All this stuff is going to be on this sheet once we get to the end part of this and we're done with our reading, and I get to going through the spreadsheet I created, and then we'll get into it. I mean, the elements are deep. Okay, I mean, super duper deep. You can really study this stuff for a lifetime. Continuing. The four suits of the tarot deck. Here we go, were element signs whose mingling, shuffling was supposed to reflect the creation of events. You had the wands for fire, the swords for air, the cups for water, and the pentacles for earth. Male authority seized the two elements considered higher or more refined, declaring that fire and air were male and superior, while water and earth were female, and therefore unspiritual, heavy, cold, passive, and muddy. However, occult tradition maintained that only earth and water bring forth a living soul. You see all the contradictions? In India, it was said that mantras with largely fierce, fiery, and airy letter sounds were cruel, while mantras with largely water or earthly letter sounds were kind. The traditional circular symbols for the elements express the customary notion of their ascending degree and rarefication. A plain empty circle stands for fire, showing that it has no weight. A dotted circle, which also represents the sun, stands for air. The horizontal line of the sea, horizon, called diameter, stands for water. The cross in a circle, with its many variations representing the four quarters, see four-way motifs, signifies earth. Superimposed on the other three signs, the earth sign covers and embraces them all. And here we see that right here with the elements. We got fire, the circle, air, the circle with the dot, water, the circle with the line, and then we got this earth symbol, which is kind of superimposed all these, and then it has the vertical line. Okay, so that was the reading for that one. I'm actually running out of time. I use Clipchamp right now, and I get 30-minute sessions, but that's long enough for me to actually go into each section the way I want to. I'm gonna take a look at the next section real quick and see if it's something short enough for me to read. It is. I have about 7 minutes left. I'm gonna go ahead and read this because I want to get as much as I can done. So we continuing on. I hope that first reading actually, gave you some things to ponder and consider. But we're gonna keep on reading. This is a reading series here for now. Okay, the tattvas represent one of several Hindu systems for classifying the elements. So this is just one of the several Hindu systems for classifying elements. Water is a silver crescent moon. Apas, air, is a blue circle. Vayu, fire, is a red triangle. Tejas, earth, is a yellow diamond or square. Prithvi, the fifth element, spirit, corresponding with the Greek ether, is a black or indigo egg called akasha, the void. According to another system, the colors of water and air are transposed, while the red and yellow of fire and earth remain the same. The names of the tattvas are also the names of deities who might be invoked individually when some boon is craved. It will be noted that these sacred colors are precisely what we all have learned to call the primary colors, because from the elemental red, yellow, blue, white, and black, all other colors can be obtained by mixing, just as the elements were believed to be mixed in order to create a world in all its hues. Ain't that so beautiful, man? I mean, oneness is great. We came into this world of multiplicity to learn true oneness. Everything is created from one aspect of things, which is a mixture of things. You know, everything is created from the base element, a mixture of these particular base things. I'm thinking about when if you like me, when you go to sleep at night, you can see these dots. I see green, red, and blue dots, and I can control these dots at will. Now, I did some research on it, and it may be related to the cone in the eyes, But I ask people, hey, do you ever see those dots? And they say no. I ask my children, they say yeah. And I think children are more susceptible because I discovered these dots when I was a child, just playing in my bed at night. It's time to go to bed and nothing to do. I'm sitting there with my eyes closed and I start seeing these dots and I start playing with them. And I actually can move them at will, change the colors at will. But all of that is a part of controlling the elements. Like everything is connected and there's no easily distinguishable, definable line that say, hey, things stop being connected right here. Spirit and reality stop right here. No, it blends and merges into each other. And that's what I want y'all to continue to realize when we're, talking about the elements, that really at the end of the day, the elements have to be blended and balanced. And we're going to get into that. Um, Let's go 254. Let's see if I have another chance. Okay, I got 4 minutes. I was able to do that in 3 minutes, so I should be able to do this. This is the gnome, and this is the earth element. I'm actually a Virgo, and I'm a earth sign. And so sometimes, as y'all can tell with these YouTube videos, I'm a slow starter, but once I get going, I carry a lot of momentum. That's why I say even with my business, it started way back in 2014. But once I started getting an LLC in 2021, it took me that long because, of course, I was getting off track. I went overseas doing work and stuff. Um, Once I get going, I get going and it has momentum. It keeps going. Let's see if I could go ahead and read about the gnomes because we got a lot. We got quite a lot of reading to do, but we're gonna continue. Okay, the gnomes were the spirits associated with the earth element, as were sylphs with the air, undines with the water, and salamanders with the fire. Their name may be likened to the Greek gnome, to know, gnosis, or knowledge. Okay, so here we talk the Gnostics. For all creatures dwelling in the bowels of the earth were supposed to understand the mother's hidden secrets, right? Gnomes were supposed to live in mines, caves, pits, and similar deep places, and to have miraculous knowledge of rocks, stones, minerals, gems, mining techniques, and the magic palaces at the roots of mountains. Lord, just reading all that just amazing, boy. Gnomes are prevalent in Germanic folklore. At one time, they served as guardian spirits of miners, smiths, and metalworkers. In some areas, it is still believed that gnomes inhabit old mines, shafts, and unexplored passages of caves and can kill those who trespass on their territory by burying them under rock falls. So, those are the gnomes. And, when I'm off in nature, I often go off the path. I love to go off the path. When I first started hiking, I was afraid of the outdoors. But then I learned it was so beautiful out there, and I couldn't stay away. As I learned, there was certain trails that I've became super familiar with. So I started to go off the trail and explore, looking for plants, birds, animal, whatever I could see that was a new experience. And I would get led to these places, and I find places that's I feel like I'm being led to. I do want to, you know, make more videos because, I mean, it's so much magic that happens with me. I don't know. But once again, it's not for the world. It's for me. I got 1 minute on this recording, and I'm going to continue recording, and I'm going to continue the readings. But I hope that you all are enjoying this so far. If you are, please come for the next video. I will be continuing my discourse on the elements and ultimately working up to this here, which I can provide to those who would like it. Maybe I could find a way to post it up online somewhere so that people can download it, look at it, and have it as a reference for when you begin your practices. Thank y'all for tuning in. Once again, this is my first video of 2026. The year starting off amazing. It's so much spiritual enlightenment, and I wish and hope that yours is. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace and